Hey everybody, we're back again with the next video in the Hand in Hand Watercolor Week series, and this time we're going to be painting the umbrella. So the umbrella is actually a little bit tricky. I think it's maybe the hardest image from the set to watercolor. I think just because the unique shape of an umbrella catches the light and creates shadow in some kind of unique areas, just because of the way it's shaped, and so that can be a little bit challenging. What might help you, we do have of course our value sketch, and you can think about where the light will hit, where the shadows will be created from kind of these raised spines on the umbrella, but it might help too to look at some actual pictures of umbrellas. And so I put together just a few that I found copyright free photos online that kind of have the same type of light source as what we are kind of working with on our umbrella, just to get an idea of how do these areas look, like how do they catch the light, where's the shadows, that sort of thing. And so I'm actually going to probably be going off of this image right over here, kind of using that as a reference as I paint. And you can see where the spine here is catching the light, darker area here, highlighted area here, and then at the top it's catching the light as well. And so even though I'm going to be using different colors, I'm going to be using this image kind of as a reference for where to put my highlights, or at least attempt to put my highlights and shadowed areas. And so you might find that helpful as well, to think about finding just some good reference photos. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. I think we're going to make a red umbrella today, and I'm going to start with this middle section here, and I'm just going to start with some wet on wet, and I'm thinking about my reference photo here. I have it over off to my side here that I'm going to be just kind of referencing as I go along, and so we'll try to capture some of the kind of highlights and shadows based on the reference image. And so I'm just going to do wet on wet here. And so this center panel has kind of a highlight area in the center, and then it's nice and dark along this edge, and also a little bit darker again along this edge. And so I'm going to start by dropping in some yellow for some bright warm highlights in this center area. And then I'll go to my red. I'm using permanent red and permanent yellow here, and then I'm going to just drop that in along that edge. And this edge. And also along the bottom. Try to make sure that my edges are nice and clean. It's kind of a challenge sometimes. And then I'm going to kind of pull this color. Didn't travel quite as far as I wanted it to. I'm going to kind of pull some of that towards the center. Add just a little bit more color right up here. And I want it a little bit darker along these edges, so I'm going to go back with some more red. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good start to that panel. I'm going to move over here to this panel way on the left side of the umbrella, and looking again at my reference photo, I have a highlight area kind of up here at the top. The light's coming from this direction and it's kind of catching this little top edge here, and then it gets darker, and it's very dark down the further you get towards the bottom here of that section. And so I'm just going to start with some wet on wet, and I'm going to drop in my yellow there at the top, and then I'll move down into some red. And where I want it nice and dark, I'll drop in a little more color. And again, you can always come back and darken things up. Alright, so now I'm ready to move on to the other two sections, but I don't want to work on those until these two are completely dry. So I'm going to give that just a minute and we'll be back and work on the other sections. Alright, so I'm back, and we're going to work on this section way on the right side. And once again, I'm going to be doing some wet on wet, and so I'm just going to start with painting with some water. And then according to my reference photo, the right side is dark, and then there is a highlighted area more on the right side of that section. I do want to catch a little more highlight up here in this area, so I might try to pull out a little bit of color from up here. Alright, and then I'll go in with some yellow and create more of my highlighted area over here. Okay, and then working on this section, there is a bit of a highlight kind of in this area right here, and then the rest is pretty dark, and so I'm going to put just a little bit of water in this section right here and drop some yellow in there. And then the rest of the section I will work with just my permanent red. And I want to darken that up a little bit, so I'm going to drop some more permanent red in here while it's still wet. Alright, so we're going to let that dry, and I might go back in and add a little bit of shading, especially in this section here once that's dry. Okay, so this center section doesn't have as much color to it as I would like, so I think what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go in and once again do another layer of wet on wet, and so I'm going to re-wet this area. And then we'll just repeat that process of dropping in the red. And then I'm going to drop in some more yellow. Okay, that's looking better, and now that I did that, now I feel like some of the other sections need to also be darkened up. And so I'm going to start over here and we'll darken this one up a little bit with another layer of red. And then some yellow up at the top. And then of course then everything looks too light, and so we'll just kind of go through and darken up some of these other areas as well. This one I want to get a little more yellow warmth up here. So I'm going to try to pull some color out of there and then add in my yellow. Alright, so I think that's looking pretty good. I'm just going to finish it off by adding some darkness and defining these areas here, the little details, the top, the handle, and the little wires. And I'm just going to use some black paint. Drop in a little more saturated color up here where it would be in the shadow from the umbrella itself. And then we'll define these little wires just a little bit. And then the top. Alright, and I think we're going to call that good. And then tomorrow we'll just be back with this little dog, and then we'll work on some background ideas. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do for that yet, but I have some ideas, and so we'll play around with it and see where it goes. Alright everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.